run from a 48-year-old man. He ain't running from me, he's coming to fight.
Okay, I'm here at the weigh-in for the big matchroom card tomorrow night with big Glenn McCrory. How's it going, mate?
It's all going good. It's all going good. Nice to see you.
Yeah. Just a quick one. Let's talk about tomorrow night's card. Such a huge card. So many fights. So many pick-em fights. What do you think is the main event of the fight?
Well, it's a brilliant card. It's great to see a massive card like this on in London, especially when British boxing's going so good, featuring British fighters and British fighters in great opportunities. We've got Kevin Mitchell looking to finally get his hands on the World Championship to win the lightweight title. Got a tough fight against Jorge Linares, who looks very, very good, looks sharp, saying the right things. He has been stopped in the past. He has lost, but he's come back. He's won fights, and you can never forget he's a three-weight world champion. So that's a tough one. But Kevin Mitchell, in his best form, if he can keep his head together, could beat anybody.
Yeah, and a lot of people on social media are saying that Kevin Mitchell, anytime to the big event, he seems to lose out. He's got to keep that focus and keep that discipline. Is the time right now?
It should be right. He's in a better place, I think, personally, a better place in his training than he's ever been before. So it's very hard, fighters can be upset quite easily. Personal things happen, different things can upset the apple cart. You need your train to go right. He's already got a cut nose. There's been little rumours that he's been out of fettle a few, not very well 6-8 weeks ago. So you just wonder, what sort of shape he's in, how strong he is. It's really all about Kevin Mitchell getting together mentally. We know he's got the ability to beat anybody in the world. It's really if he's got the mental focus. And we'll not know until the bell goes and we see how he shapes up. But I think it's a tough fight with Linares.
Yeah. Moving forward, looking at Gradovich versus Selby, a great fight, clash of styles, the boxer versus the brawler. How do you see that one playing out?
Again, we're dealing at the very top level, so no fight you're going to say, oh, I see Selby winning easy or anything like that. Gradovich is top world class, excellent fighter. He did struggle a little bit in his last fight, so that may give Selby a bit of hope. The one good thing is styles make fights, and also styles can really help you. And Selby is a great defensive boxer, loves being on the back foot, loves somebody coming forward, loves somebody who's aggressive and wild, and that is Evgeny Gradovich, isn't it? So he's got almost a made-to-pick opponent for his style. So it really just, hopefully that'll bring the best out in him, and I think we might have a new world champion and a new superstar of British boxing.
Yeah. Selby seems to be one of those guys that seems to box within himself, never seems to be out of first or second gear, and the question is that can he actually fight at that higher gear when forced for 12 rounds?
He's never, as you've said, he's never really had to do that. He looks as if there's a lot more in the tank. We've never seen him under real pressure. We've never seen him in any pickle or anything like that. So I really do believe that Selby could have a lot more in him, and if so, then we're going to really see him shine, and you've got the right opponent for him to shine against. But it's still top world class, and all of a sudden that's the reckoner, isn't it? That when we've seen so many fighters when they've looked great against the contenders, look great on the way up, but then when they get to that pinnacle, I know how hard it is when you're up there. You're at the very top level.
Let's go to the main event, looking at Gavin versus Brook. A fight that's people out there 50-50 on it. They're not sure if Gavin is ready for this fight.
I would say that Frankie Gavin has got to, he's got to be pleased. He's obviously quite lucky or quite grateful to get this opportunity at this stage. Just so happens that Brook needs a voluntary defence. He's British, so there's a little bit of fortune there, but also he's a former British and European champion. He's a British Commonwealth champion. He's a former world champion, the only British world champion amateur that we've ever had. So there is a good skill level. When he turned pro, massive potential. Never quite fulfilled that potential, but what I'm glad to say, he's got his opportunity. Every fighter needs their opportunity. It's the best shape I've ever seen him in. I've never seen Frankie Gavin in this sort of shape. So he looks as if he's really put his mind on it, put his heart and soul into training, and that'll be a first. The other thing is, we've also seen Kell Brook. He's looked great in his last couple of fights, but we've seen him in the past, Carson Jones, where he was under par. If he's under par, if he thinks this is going to be an easy defense, this could be a tough night. This could be an ugly night, an ugly fight, and he could get messed about an awful lot. But you've got to think the class, the record, the experience, everything goes to the man in form, and it looks like second chance for Kell Brook is all he needs.
Yeah, I think Frankie Gavin, if he boxes, that's where he has to stay with the fight. But actually, just boxing, smart, technical, keep his distance.
Well, that's exactly what he does. But we've seen Kell Brook frustrated by fighters like that. We've seen him run out of ideas, run out of patience a bit, and get frustrated. Frankie Gavin is an expert at that. You know, we have got a pretty remarkable defensive fighter. He does things in the gyms that you don't see fighters do. If he can transfer that to the ring, then we've got a real fight in the hands, and Kell Brook's got to be prepared 100%.
Yeah. Let's move to the heavyweights quickly. Frankie, I'm doing the Michael Buffer now. Kevin Johnson versus Anthony Joshua. Your type of guys, the big guys. Interesting fight. Kevin Johnson is defensive, doesn't throw a lot, but does throw good punches when he throws them. Joshua wants to try to get the stoppage, obviously, the first time for Kevin Johnson. What do you see on the cards for this one?
I think obviously, people are making an awful lot by the fact that Kevin Johnson has never been stopped. He's been in with Vitaly Klitschko, went the distance with Tyson Fury, with Derek Chisora. He's been in and went the distance with good fights. The thing that you've got to look at is he's not beating good fighters. He's not winning against those fighters. He's losing fights. Obviously, this is a big opportunity, and this is a way to get his name back in the heavyweight picture again. So you'd expect him to have tried a bit harder. But I think if you're a defensive boxer, you're just going to let somebody like Anthony Joshua take shots at you, you've got another thing covered, because that's just not going to happen. You've got to be able to fight back. You've got to be active. You've got to be putting the big man under some sort of pressure and throwing hard shots. And that's not what Kevin Johnson does or hasn't done recently. So for me, if he's going to stand there and think he can tuck up, he can just roll with punches, he can hold, you can do that with a certain class of fighter. You can't do that with a very good fighters. And AJ for me is a very good fighter. And I think it'll be the first time, but Kevin Johnson will get stopped.
Last one, just for last question. Last week we had James Degale win his IBF title against Anthony Degale in a very good performance. Couple rounds in the middle were quite tricky. What do you think of the performance?
I thought the performance was a very good performance. It was away from home against a very accomplished, very talented fighter in a style which, James is not used to fighting somebody who's very like himself, but he handled it very well. Excellent to get the knockdown early in the fight. I think that really paved the way for him, and he really needed that away from home. Big knockdown. Degale did well to get up, did well to claw himself back in the fight, but I think really the Degale had just got to a point in the fight where he thought, I'm miles ahead, and I've just got to sort of be a little bit cagey in the middle rounds. Then Jim McDonald must have told him round about 10, listen, you're winning, but it's getting a bit close now. So then he stepped it up at the end of the fight, and he looked championship star quality. So he did everything he had to do, come out of it, very, very well, and made history. So Olympic champion and the world champion. So great fights out there for him, and that will stand him in good stead with American audiences, because they love that. They love the golden boy who can win the gold at the Olympics and then turn that to professional success. So he's got some great fights out there for him.
Just moving forward, just a fraction. Whereas obviously, if George Groves wins his fight against Badu Jack in September, to have a huge domestic unification with the super title between Degale and Groves. They both changed a lot in the past 4 years. As it stands right now, who would you edge in a fight?
Well, as it stands right now, you've got to go for the man who's won the world championship, because he's going to feel, he's coming off the best win of his life. He's a world champion. He knows that George Groves failed in his attempts to win the world championship, so he's bound to feel stronger, more accomplished. He's come through some tough times, so he thinks it's going to be a good fight. But Groves, I think I'm looking forward to seeing him against Badu Jack, because he had a tough year last year, fought a lot of fights, did exceedingly well, but then fell short at the final hurdle. So I'm looking hopefully that fight comes through, and we've got a massive fight for Britain.
Yeah. Gavin McCrory, thank you very much for talking to
Cheers.
us again.